Everybody's working for the weekend, right? Well, maybe not everyone, especially if your Friday happens to be cursed. Now let's be honest here. If you work in retail, Friday's probably already a scary day for you. But despite everybody working for the weekend, there is a historic standard for Friday being bad luck, with one Friday in particular being a particularly ill omen. Is there any proof to back up the belief that Friday the 13th brings bad luck? Or is it just another superstition? But first, today's episode is exploring a widely held belief from a certain culture. We're not here to judge, just to look at the origin and beliefs behind Friday the 13th and explore the evidence linking it to bad luck. Every culture has its own superstitions, and there's nothing wrong with that, as long as it doesn't include ritual sacrifices or astrology. If you don't want to travel or take risks on Friday the 13th, that's your business. Same goes for if you want to walk under a ladder, break a mirror, and spill all the salt on your table. And with that out of the way, let's get into it. Like many superstitions, the origin of Friday the 13th being bad luck is unclear at best.
Your meatbag myths have no centralized databank. How quaint.
Huh? Oh, yeah, not everything gets written down, Potts.
My name is Howard.
In fact, the story of Friday the 13th may come from two separate myths. For the number 13 itself, we can thank Christianity for the idea that it's unlucky. You may have noticed that some buildings in the US don't have a 13th floor, or some streets skip the 13th house number. This is all thanks to the biblical story of the Last Supper, where Jesus dined with his 12 apostles, bringing the total number of diners to the big 13. Now, whether it was Jesus himself or Judas Iscariot that was the 13th guest is unclear, but the end result was the same. Judas pulled a Judas and went all Anakin Skywalker on them, leading to another very important biblical story, the crucifixion, which happened on, you guessed it, Friday. Good Friday, to be exact. But that's not the only dinner-related story that led to 13 being considered to be the bad number. No, I'm serious, there's more than one of these. Heads up kids, all stories are remakes. In the Poetic Edda, a Norse myth, the story goes that after tricking the blind god Hod into slaying Balder with mistletoe, Loki... Really? Let me check my sources. Okay, yeah, this is the thing. This happened. Anyways, after tricking Hod, Loki proceeded to crash a memorial dinner held by the 12 other gods. Another unlucky 13th guest. None too pleased about this, the rest of the gods did the only thing that seemed reasonable. Chain Loki up beneath the earth where a snake's poison eternally drips on his face. Yeah, Norse gods are scary. Thanks to these stories, having 13 people at a table has developed a reputation as being, well, bad. According to NPR, there was even a belief that one of the 13 would pass within a year. Spooky. Fridays carry their own reason for being unlucky, and no, it's not because of Black Friday. Though, stay strong, retail friends. Stay strong. As early as the 14th century, classic English poet Geoffrey Chaucer made reference to Friday as a day of misfortune in his famous work The Canterbury Tales. Though, seeing as how Canterbury Tales is pretty full of mocking tragedy, this may have been a joke.
Bruce speaks truth, so weep for those who take mine words without joy or mirth, for in these verses, jokes veiled in stealth, I mock myself, much as any else.
Oh, Chaucer.
Verily.
That was pretty good.
Oh, yeah, was it?
That was good, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, maybe I should take a nap one of these days,
Oh,
huh?
wouldn't that be rich?
According to the BBC, Friday gained a bad rap in the UK for being known as the Hangman's Day, for reasons. According to an article from The Mirror, following the spread of Christianity through Scandinavia, that Frigga, the Norse goddess of love and fertility, was branded a witch and banished. The story goes that Frigga assembled the Dark Lord and 11 other witches to plot evil deeds on Fridays. According to the Irish women's magazine, Irish Tatler, the day was labeled the Witches' Sabbath, which, incidentally, sounds like a rocking band name. It's thought that the superstitious Victorians were the first to combine Friday and 13 into some kind of bad luck fusion dance. But the first known mention of Friday the 13th in media actually comes from 1907, when an author named Thomas Lawson released a book called, wait for it, Friday the 13th. The novel was about a stockbroker and an evil business plan to crash the stock market on the titular date, Friday the 13th. Which does sound like a very novel idea. And sounds like it's a thing. Well, I mean, kind of, but something like that happened. Not at the time, but in 1989, a full 82 years after the novel was released, on Friday, October 13th, a mini crash rocked the stock market. According to an LA Times article written at the time, this doesn't appear to have been a plan by some evil business. Instead, analyst Newton Zinder claimed that traders were spooked by word that a buyout of United Airlines had collapsed. And that's just getting started. There are plenty of other stories surrounding the ominous date. As avid Dan Brown readers may be aware, it is believed that another unlucky October 13th may have happened centuries earlier in 1307. As described by National Geographic, the Knights Templar were arrested by King Philip IV for the crimes of having more money than the King of France. Charges which were dressed up as consorting with demons and such. You know, heresy. According to some tellings of the story, the Templar Grand Master Jacques de Molay is said to have cursed those who wronged them, and his curse has caused every Friday the 13th to become unlucky. The Knights were dealt with in the period's usual fashion. Yeah, kind of like this, but worse. There was also Friday, September 13th, 1940, when Buckingham Palace was severely damaged by airstrikes because of reasons. Other downer historic Friday the 13th include September 13th, 1996, when rapper Tupac Shakur passed away, January 13th, 2012, when the cruise ship Costa Concordia wrecked off the coast of Italy, and August 13th, 2010, when a 13-year-old boy was struck by lightning. Is there any truth to this superstition? Statistically speaking, is Friday the 13th actually any worse than other dates? Considering all the bad things that have happened on other dates, probably not. That said, there is a study linking Friday the 13th to misfortune. Published in the 1993 Christmas edition of the British Medical Journal, the study shows a link between driving on the cursed day and an increased risk of hospitalization from traffic accident. That sounds credible, right? Well, kind of. The thing is that, in author Robert Lubin's own words, the study was just a bit of fun and not to be taken seriously. According to Lubin, while the data in the study is all real, the study itself was written in a tongue-in-cheek manner. It was written for the Christmas edition of the British Medical Journal, which usually carries fun or spoof articles. On the flip side, Dutch researchers found the exact opposite, that you're less likely to be injured on a Friday the 13th. The study hypothesized that this might be because people are more careful on the day because of the superstition, which makes sense. As said by The Independent, a lot of people tend to prefer to not take risks, even when dealing with superstitions. And then there's the 13 Club. Enter Captain William Fowler, a man whose life was strangely tied to the number 13. He constructed 13 buildings, was a member of 13 clubs, joined and left the army on the 13th of the month, and even fought 13 battles for, reasons. Realizing that he was still fine despite the superstition, Fowler decided to do the only thing that seemed reasonable to him. Put together a club and do all the things they weren't supposed to. And I'm not kidding. This club would meet on the 13th of every month, start their meeting off by walking under a ladder, break mirrors, spill salt, and eat dinner with 13 people at the table. I bet they even drank coffee with cream. Scandalous. But despite inviting every ill omen upon themselves, nothing happened to the club. After a year, the club secretary stated, whether they have participated or not at the banquet table, not a single member is dead, or has even had a serious illness. The 13 Club grew so widespread that it actually came to include a number of presidents. But not Franklin Delano Roosevelt, who, according to biographer John Gunther, hated Friday the 13th. The date, not the movie series. You're safe for now, Jason. FDR is not coming for you. Yet. In the words of Gunther himself, like most people with good luck, FDR was moderately, not excessively, superstitious. He hated Friday the 13th. He would never start an important trip on a Friday if he could help it, and he disliked sitting down with 13 at dinner. But is Friday the 13th really unlucky? If I had to make an educated guess, it would be that incidents that happen on Friday the 13th tend to stick in our minds due to the stigma attached to the day. Huh, do you hear that? I think it's another visit from our old friend, correlation and causation. If you look hard enough, it's easy to find connections between dates and misfortune. Let me give you an example. There's a period known as the Ides in April that lasts from the 15th to the 20th and tends to contain all sorts of tragedies for the United States. The 1906 San Francisco earthquake, the sinking of the Titanic, and the BP oil spill all took place in this period. If that term sounds familiar, you might know a little something about the Ides of March. Ides in general is a term referring to a date in the Roman calendar that fell roughly in the middle of the month. Today, for us, that would coincide to the 15th in months like March and April. Or here, let's make another example. Personally, I don't like August. It gets warm and muggy and reminds me that summer is ending and winter is coming. So here, let's try to get a random date in August. I'm gonna take, here. No. Okay, that leaves us with August 8th. So what happened on this cursed day in history?
August 8th, 1963. A group of 15 robbers boarded a British mail train and stole 2.6 million pounds in used banknotes. August 8th, 1973. Future South Korean President Kim Dae-jung is kidnapped from his hotel room in Tokyo. August 8th, 2010. Mudslides hit Zhouchu County in China's Gansu province, causing loss of life and relocation in the area.
See how easy it is? You can even try this at home. Just pick a random day of the year to check and share what happened historically on that day down in the comments. I'm curious to see what you turn up with. Or tweet it at me. I got Twitter on this thing. But whatever your feelings on the unluckiest day of the year are, there's one thing that is certain. If you want to travel for cheap, Friday the 13th is probably the best time to do it. According to the CNBC investor report Street Signs, it's estimated that there's an overall revenue loss across all businesses of $700 to $800 million on Friday the 13th as people decide not to travel and make purchases. But as such, that means those willing to ignore the stigma can travel on the cheap. Some flights can drop from 5 to 44% on Friday the 13th, though discounts do vary between companies, and may depend on how superstitious other travelers are. So, what's up with Friday the 13th? Well, all in all, there's no real evidence that there's any difference in terms of luck when it comes to this specific date. Like with any superstition, it's more of an old-timey meme that just spread until it was widely accepted in the public perception. Not that everyone believes that Friday the 13th brings bad luck, but hey, it must be pretty persistent to get a horror film franchise named after it. Though 13's cursed status isn't universal. According to Italy magazine, 13 is considered a lucky number to Italians, and 17 is thought of as the unlucky one. In fact, when written in Roman numbers, 17, or XVII, can be arranged to VIXI, which, according to National Geographic, means, my life is over. Neat. Still feeling unlucky? Well, there's something that you can do. Give in and ride the wave of superstition. Throw salt over your shoulder. Knock on wood. Cross your fingers. According to a study by Jane Risen, a behavioral scientist at University of Chicago Booth School of Business, why do all of these schools have such long names? Even when you don't believe in superstitions, the act of warding off bad luck can still have benefits. After all, according to Rebecca Bora, a professor of English at University of Cincinnati, being aware of superstitions can help instill a sense of order. So, what are your plans for the next Friday the 13th? Feel like playing it safe, or want to prove the superstitions wrong? Me, I think I'm going to shake things up and stay inside.